Myrelle reached Red Quarry after the final warning bell. Nobody on the pier wanted to meet her eyes. The night wind carried a smell nobody named. The last message mentioned only one blurred destination. Villagers said that place swallowed sound before dawn. Myrelle kept walking as the path narrowed steadily. Something small inside the bag trembled like warning. It was old basalt whistle once owned by Mother. Far away, the slag chapel rose like wet. At once, every nearby lantern went suddenly dark. Only moonlight moved across the black shining water. Then a small voice called softly behind her. Edgar appeared carrying a lamp and several old keys. He told her to leave before the tide turned. Yet his eyes quietly begged her to remain. Edgar said each night another sound disappeared entirely. Some nights dogs vanished, other nights bells vanished. Last night someone lost the sound of speech. The last missing resident left behind pale marsh mud. That mud trail led directly toward the slag chapel. Myrelle asked the name everyone refused to speak. Edgar only whispered that the silent giant still waited. Old stories claimed it was neither dead nor alive. It only changed shape when someone remembered it. Together they crossed a wet walkway slick with mist. Old markers leaned sideways like rotting scattered teeth. Below them, deep water opened silver unblinking eyes. Myrelle heard a third set of footsteps nearby. Whenever she turned around, the path grew longer. The door of the slag chapel glowed faintly blue. A single black hair had been caught there. Edgar said that was how the thing marked guests. Inside the nave, dust drifted upward instead of down. Every empty bench faced the wall instead of altar. At the center, a ring of symbols looked wet. Myrelle touched it, and her palm turned freezing cold. Suddenly, the roof trembled as if huge wings landed. A flock of dark shapes crossed the light above. Edgar pulled her behind the old altar quickly. On the steps above, a human shape began forming. It looked female, but its neck seemed too long. An ancient hood concealed half the pale face. From its shoulders fell feathers, leaves, or ash. Myrelle recognized the missing basalt whistle within its grasp. The creature turned its head while body stayed still. Then it spoke her mother's name into darkness. That sound resembled memory more than ordinary speech. Edgar panicked and warned her not to answer. Yet that name unearthed a long-buried family secret. Her mother had fled Red Quarry on this night. She carried away a promise never properly fulfilled. That promise was tied to the distant echo pit. Edgar admitted he had sent the final message. He needed one blood relative to return here. Every earlier ritual had failed before completion, because the silent giant rejected anyone without lineage. Myrelle grew angry yet still refused to leave. She needed to learn what her mother had traded. The creature retreated and pointed toward rear passage. Beyond a narrow door, tidewater was rising fast. The rear passage descended into flooded stone steps. Long claw marks remained etched across both walls. Each stair held one candle burned into blackness. At the bottom stood a door of roots. Edgar opened it using a bent stubborn key. Inside waited a cramped chamber with low ceiling. At the center sat a small altar draped wet. Beneath the cloth was an old portrait of Mother. In one corner, the painted eyes were scratched. Behind the frame, an unsent letter remained hidden. The letter described a bargain exchanged for peace. If broken, the whole region would begin losing sound. Morel understood her mother fled to break that bargain. Yet the remaining cost had fallen on locals. Edgar survived by guarding the covenant through decades. He aged faster whenever the moon turned wrong. That was why tonight's message resembled a plea. Overhead, dripping water gathered into perfect circles nearby. Those circles merged slowly into one dark mirror. Inside it, the silent giant appeared clearer than ever. It had not come to kill, but finish. What it wanted was the living voice of Mirel. That voice would silence the land for 10 years. Mirel refused, and the mirror cracked everywhere instantly. From every crack, dozens of whispers poured outward. They were the voices of earlier missing residents. Each voice repeated only one unfinished sentence softly. One sentence insisted the bargain was never fair. Another warned the keeper always became final offering. Edgar stared in shock as both hands turned gray. He had been the final link all along. The silent giant used him until blood returned here. Mirel pulled him running from the flooding chamber. Behind them, Mother's portrait burned without any flame. Cold fire opened a route toward the echo pit. Outside, all of Red Quarry glowed like a dream. Residents stood beside the road as though sleepwalking. Their mouths open, but no sound emerged out. Every lantern tilted slowly toward the distant echo pit. At the center, water coiled upward into stairs. The silent giant climbed each stair without touching water. It invited Mirel onward with one patient bow. Edgar knelt down, knowing his remaining time faded. He gave her final key and begged no pity. To break the pact, she had to unlock ritual. If she failed, the region's voices vanished forever. Mirel steadied herself and climbed the watery stairs. Behind her, the sky began shedding dark feathers. Atop Echo Pit stood a slanted moon-carved stone. Silent Giant raised the basalt whistle like a key. Mirel pretended agreement, then turned away suddenly. The mark on her hand split the lock. Every thread snapped apart as the silent giant screamed. Sound rushed back while villagers collapsed altogether. Edgar smiled faintly, then faded back with time. Before vanishing, he handed over Mother's final letter. The letter warned never watch when it unmasks. Dawn arrived, but many memories still remained missing. Her phone suddenly caught Mother counting backward nearby. Mirel turned back and found the water watching. Conservator Clara Vale restored a forbidden village ledger. Its pages listed futures instead of births or deaths. Every year, one resident's remaining years mysteriously disappeared. The town called it St. Elsbeth's Sacred Blessing. Clara knew Elsbeth was actually her witch ancestor. Museum portraits showed Elsbeth never aging across centuries. Mayor Gideon Ash demanded Clara surrender the ledger. That night, silver moths covered Clara's apartment windows. One silver moth carried Elsbeth's miniature handwritten warning. The warning said, "Tomorrow truly belonged to nobody." Clara returned secretly to the locked village museum. The ancient ledger opened itself beneath moonless skylights. New ink wrote Clara's name across tomorrow's page. A young woman stepped from Elsbeth's oldest portrait. She wore indigo paper layers and silver moths. Elsbeth looked far younger than every surviving portrait. Elsbeth asked only whether Clara truly enjoyed living. Before Clara answered, all museum clocks reversed together. Gideon entered with masked members of the council. They carried bowls filled with gray paper ash. Elsbeth called them heirs of the stolen future. Gideon ordered the council to begin yearly selection. Ash formed a human outline beside the ledger. Twig antlers rose from its burned paper skull. The Ashman pointed toward Clara without eyes. Her name suddenly glowed across his hollow chest. Elsbeth cut the glowing letters using one fingernail. The Ashman screamed through every museum portrait. Gideon said Elsbeth's spell had preserved their town. 3 centuries earlier, plague approached from eastern roads. Elsbeth completely stopped time around the village boundary. But frozen time demanded one stolen future yearly. The council chose outsiders, servants, and inconvenient residents. Their stolen years fed the town's suspended clock. Elsbeth eventually rebelled against the council's growing cruelty. They trapped her living shadow inside painted portraits. Gideon's family continued the selection through secret ceremonies. Clara asked why Elsbeth never broke the spell. Elsbeth revealed breaking it restored 3 missing centuries. The entire town might collapse into accumulated time. Gideon offered Clara complete exemption for lifelong silence. He showed her a room of preserved relatives. Clara's grandmother sat there, unchanged since 1980. Instead, the council secretly stored her unfinished years. Elsbeth warned touching her would transfer Clara's future. Gideon touched Clara's frozen grandmother using black gloves. For one brief breath, she opened frightened eyes. She whispered Clara's childhood nickname and instantly froze. Clara agreed to help Elsbeth end the selection. They needed the original village clock's missing hand. Gideon had hidden it beneath the council hall. The Ashman guarded tunnels beneath ceremonial ash. Clara carried the ledger while Elsbeth carried moths. They entered tunnels through a portrait's dark background. Each painted tree held faces of sacrificed residents. Their mouths repeated futures they had never lived. Clara heard her own future among countless whispers. She would expose Gideon, then mysteriously vanish unmarried. Elsbeth said written futures were only stolen possibilities. The Ashman emerged from a burning doorway. Its twig antlers carried dozens of ticking watches. Elsbeth surrounded it using countless silver moth wings. The creature swallowed moths and suddenly became brighter. Clara opened the ancient ledger to blank pages. She wrote the Ashman's forgotten human name. The creature slowly transformed into blacksmith Abel Marr. Abel forged the original clock hand centuries earlier. The council sacrificed him to power Elsbeth's spell. Gideon's ancestors completely erased Abel from every record. Remembering his true name weakened the burning ash. It was secretly embedded inside Gideon's ceremonial cane. Clara and Elsbeth finally reached the council hall. He had secretly accelerated the selection before dawn. Clara's grandmother stood silently among the chosen victims. Gideon demanded Elsbeth immediately restore the original bargain. Elsbeth admitted she had authored its first cruelty. Fear made her sacrifice Abel without his consent. Clara realized Elsbeth was both protector and criminal. She took Gideon's ceremonial cane during their argument. The missing clock hand suddenly slid from inside. Gideon lunged, but countless silver moths covered him. Clara inserted the hand into the village clock. Ancient time thundered through every village street simultaneously. Buildings rapidly aged, cracked, then returned to normal. Residents suddenly changed ages with each violent heartbeat. The council members became dust inside their robes. Gideon remained young because his future was empty. He had already spent every stolen year completely. Elsbeth began aging across 3 centuries at once. Elsbeth asked Clara never to forgive her completely. She only wanted the yearly selection permanently ended. Clara's grandmother awakened and immediately recognized her face. But she had aged 40 years within seconds. The town clock finally moved beyond midnight again. Elsbeth vanished, leaving one final silver moth behind. Gideon escaped through village streets, collapsing into mourning. Police found him completely unable to remember tomorrow. Every sunrise completely erased his previous day's memories. Clara published the ledger and secret council records. Historians dismissed the supernatural pages as elaborate forgery. Medical experts could not explain the survivors' aging. The museum removed every portrait connected with Elsbeth. Still, silver moths gathered there every single midnight. Clara stored the original clock hands separately underground. It moved backward whenever someone nearby deliberately lied. 1 full year passed without another chosen future. Then Clara noticed village children stopped growing entirely. Adults aged normally, but newborn clocks remained frozen. The town had lost sacrifice, yet time stayed damaged. A new page appeared beneath Elsbeth's blank portrait. It listed every child with no future dates. Silver moths formed an arrow toward the eastern road. There Gideon waited beside the restored Ashman. Abel's human face had disappeared beneath burning paper. Gideon raised 12 watches toward the rising sun. The town clock stopped exactly at Clara's birth time. Elsbeth's faint voice whispered from every silver moth. She warned the final spell had only begun. No official report ever explained the frozen children. The unanswered mystery continues beneath Saint Elsbeth's blessing. Radio astronomer Mara Quinn detected voices inside lunar static. The signal returned every 27 years without variation. Tonight it repeated Mara's missing sister's final words. Nora vanished near Hollow Moon Observatory decades earlier. Search teams found footprints ending beneath open sky. Mountain Ranger Elias Crow remembered lights descending silently. He had hidden that memory from every investigation. Mara brought analog receivers and Nora's silver pendant. The pendant vibrated whenever static formed recognizable breathing. A storm sealed the observatory road before midnight. Mara and Elias entered the abandoned telescope dome. Dust covered everything except one polished control chair. The chair faced a telescope disconnected since Nora vanished. Its eyepiece showed a moon with a black opening. Elias insisted the real moon looked completely normal. Mara recorded 7 figures walking inside the opening. Each figure carried a lantern made from starlight. One stopped and raised Nora's familiar silver pendant. The observatory doors locked without electricity or wind. Something small scratched repeatedly beneath the metal floor. Elias opened a service hatch using emergency tools. A silver-skinned creature crouched among bundled cables. Its black eyes reflected constellations absent from Earth. Translucent paper layers carefully formed its trembling cloak. Mara named the creature Nemi after childhood stories. Nemi touched Nora's pendant and projected moving memories. Mara saw hikers entering moonlight 30 years earlier. They returned moments later, completely unchanged and smiling. Official records claimed those hikers had vanished permanently. Elias suddenly recognized himself among the returning group. He had completely lost 6 hours that night. Nemi drew a hollow circle across the dusty floor. The circle opened onto a valley beneath another moon. Paper trees bent slowly towards silent silver buildings. Nora stood outside one building exactly 32. Mara nearly crossed before Elias pulled her back. Nemi shook violently and covered both black eyes. A taller visitor emerged behind Nora's frozen image. Its strange face changed between every missing hiker. The visitor spoke using voices Mara deeply trusted. It called itself the Keeper of Unspoken Grief. The visitors collected sorrow humans refused to express. They claimed grief became dangerous when buried too long. Every 27 years, they opened another crossing. Some humans entered willingly to surrender unbearable memories. Others were chosen because their sorrow affected everyone. Nora entered willingly after their mother's sudden death. Mara had believed Nora abandoned her without explanation. The Keeper offered Nora's return for Mara's grief. Mara refused payment without hearing Nora speak directly. Nemi guided them through the floor's hollow circle. Gravity suddenly shifted sideways inside the Silver Valley. Their shadows floated above them like dark balloons. Buildings unfolded when visitors passed through their walls. No doors existed anywhere across the silent settlement. Elias discovered strange clocks containing preserved human heartbeats. One clock beat using his own missing hours. Nemi revealed visitors measured time through emotional weight. Stolen hours became fragile bridges between separate worlds. Nora waited inside a chamber filled with paper stars. She recognized Mara immediately and suddenly began crying. But Nora's tears floated upward without ever falling. She said only 3 Earth days had passed. The visitors had shown her countless grieving civilizations. Nora now helped prevent sorrow from becoming violence. Mara asked whether Nora could finally return home. Nora said Earth had already forgotten her body. Only Mara's memory still anchored her human shape. The keeper entered slowly, carrying 7 extinguished lanterns. It announced Earth's crossing would close at sunrise. One traveler could return while another remained behind. Elias offered his life to repay hidden evidence. Nora refused because guilt was not honest sacrifice. Mara desperately searched the chamber for another solution. Nemi opened a lantern containing Earth's accumulated grief. Inside swirled wars, funerals, losses, and unspoken apologies. The lantern was cracking beneath unbearable emotional weight. The keeper intended releasing everything during the crossing. Nora admitted visitors were no longer fully controlling it. Human grief had become stronger than their vessels. If released, millions would relive strangers' worst losses. Mara proposed broadcasting grief through radio waves gradually. The keeper doubted human minds could survive exposure. Elias connected analog receivers across the silver chamber. Nora translated emotions into patterns without human words. Mara aimed the observatory dish through the crossing. The broadcast began as sunrise touched Earth's mountains. Across continents, sleepers briefly dreamed completely unfamiliar lives. Millions awoke crying without understanding any clear reason. The lantern's cracks slowly sealed beneath softer light. But the crossing suddenly began collapsing around everyone. Nemi forcefully pushed Mara and Elias toward Earth. Nora remained beside the keeper, holding the lantern. Mara grabbed Nora's hand through the shrinking circle. For one brief second, Nora became visibly older. Then her hand separated into silver paper star. Mara fell inside the observatory as sunrise arrived. Elias returned after missing another 6 hours completely. Nemi remained behind, trapped beneath the service floor. The creature's layered cloak had turned completely black. It drew Nora's face beside 27 small circles. Authorities confiscated every receiver and sealed the dome. They blamed mass dreams on unusual solar activity. No observatory instruments ever recorded Mara's impossible broadcast. However, millions reported completely identical silver valleys online. Mara preserved one analog tape beyond official searches. The tape contained Nora softly whispering after sunrise. She warned the hollow moon was opening wider. 27 nights later, Nemi disappeared from confinement. Security footage showed absolutely no doors opening anywhere. Mara returned home and studied the real moon. A dark opening appeared where no crater existed. 7 silver lanterns moved slowly inside that opening. The old radio activated despite being completely unplugged. Nora's voice asked Mara whether Earth felt lighter. Then another voice answered from inside Mara's room. Nemi stood behind her, wearing Nora's silver pendant. Its black eyes now clearly reflected Earth's constellations. No government agency explained the synchronized global dreams. The hollow moon signal continues returning every night. Architect Eva Morrow inherited a house without windows. Number 13 appeared only after sunset each evening. Neighbors called it the house that borrowed shadows. Eva's partner Julian vanished while surveying its basement. Police found his flashlight but never his shadow. Every room contained wallpaper stitched with black thread. The patterns moved whenever Eva briefly looked away. Her elderly Aunt Sabine arrived carrying silver scissors. She warned Eva never to stand between mirrors. Collector Dorian Pike offered millions for the property. Dorian claimed the house belonged to his family. His shadow arrived several seconds after every movement. Sabine recognized that delay and locked every mirror. She called Dorian a tenant wearing borrowed skin. Eva angrily demanded answers about Julian's sudden disappearance. Sabine opened a seam along the hallway wallpaper. Cold darkness breathed through the narrow paper opening. Inside, hundreds of shadows whispered forgotten family names. One shadow traced Julian's face against the wall. It pointed downward toward the sealed sewing room. Eva entered carrying chalk, candles, and Julian's flashlight. The sewing room contained many mannequins without heads. Each mannequin cast a completely different human shadow. A spinning wheel turned without thread or hands. Julian's frightened voice came from beneath the floorboards. Dorian locked the door behind Eva and Sabine. He wanted the oldest shadow hidden inside Eva. Eva's shadow stretched toward Dorian before she moved. Sabine cut the shadow using her silver scissors. Black thread poured from the wound without blood. Eva collapsed while another woman appeared behind her. The stranger wore Eva's face in antique mourning clothes. Sabine called her Mistress Orla, the first owner. Orla had built the house during a plague. She stitched dying people's shadows into protective walls. The ritual kept sickness outside but trapped identities. Generations later, residents still fed the wallpaper shadows. Dorian's ancestors supplied servants, debtors, and unwanted relatives. Sabine's family had secretly guarded the silver scissors. Eva carried Orla's final unclaimed shadows since birth. Dorian believed joining Orla would grant endless life. He opened every locked mirror with one brass key. Reflections stepped outward while their owners remained frozen. Each reflection wore faces stolen across different decades. Eva used chalk to circle Julian's moving silhouette. The silhouette pulled her through the stitched wall. Beyond it waited a city made entirely from wallpaper. Shadow citizens wandered streets without bodies or voices. Julian stood beneath a paper clock without hands. He remembered Eva, but his body served upstairs. Dorian had stolen Julian's body for Orla's return. Eva followed black threads toward the central tower. Every thread connected to a sleeping person outside. The house borrowed shadows during dreams, then kept them. Missing shadows became workers maintaining Orla's paper city. Julian urged Eva to burn the central pattern. Sabine's voice warned fire would kill trapped shadows. Eva searched for another exit through folded streets. She found children drawing doorways using white chalk. Their drawings briefly opened doorways into forgotten bedrooms. Eva realized memory, not fire, could release shadows. She described Julian's smallest daily habits aloud carefully. His shadow grew heavier, gaining color and depth. Other shadows gathered nearby, desperate for remembered details. Eva asked each one to show their homes. Countless windows opened across the dark wallpaper sky. Outside, families suddenly saw missing shadows calling silently. Dorian entered the city wearing Julian's stolen body. Orla followed them inside Eva's dark, separated shadow. Many accepted, entering mannequins inside the sewing room. The mannequins slowly climbed upstairs with unfamiliar faces. Sabine fought them using scissors and red thread. Eva understood Orla wanted replacement bodies for everyone. Freeing shadows blindly would displace their living owners. She needed careful reunions, not simple escape anymore. Julian guided Eva toward the city's oldest mirror. The mirror showed Orla before plague magic changed her. She had lost 3 children within one winter. Her first ritual attempted preserving their final shadows. Dorian's greedy ancestors corrupted grief into profitable immortality. Eva called Orla by her forgotten birth name. The paper city trembled as Orla remembered motherhood. Her shadow finally released Eva and faced Dorian. Dorian tore Julian's body away from its shadow. Sabine cut the brass key from his hand. Every mirror suddenly slammed shut except the oldest. Orla offered Dorian the endless life he wanted. She sealed his shadow inside the empty paper city. His body became another mannequin without a face. Eva placed Julian's shadow against his waiting body. Black stitches closed around his feet and hands. Julian awakened, remembering every lost year spent inside. Orla opened windows, linking shadows with rightful owners. Across the neighborhood, sleeping people suddenly woke screaming. Their returned shadows carried memories from other lives. Some owners rejected shadows they no longer recognized. Orla began fading as the wallpaper lost darkness. She asked Eva to preserve one final doorway. Eva refused, fearing another generation would misuse it. Sabine quietly saved one final stitched wallpaper square. The house collapsed inward without dust or sound. Morning revealed an empty lot beside Briar Lane. Authorities found no building permits or property records. Julian returned home but carefully avoided every mirror. His shadow sometimes strangely wore Dorian's missing face. Sabine disappeared completely before Eva could question her. Only silver scissors remained inside her locked apartment. Eva destroyed them inside an industrial silver furnace. The melted silver cooled into 13 tiny keys. Months later, new apartments rose on Briar Lane. Residents complained their shadows entered empty elevators alone. Security cameras showed shadows visiting non-existent floor 13. Eva reviewed the footage and recognized Sabine's silhouette. The silhouette carried one final stitched wallpaper square. It entered Julian's dark apartment while he slept. His shadow rose and opened the bedroom mirror. Beyond it, Dorian still wandered Orla's empty city. He looked directly toward the waiting security camera. Then 13 new paper windows opened behind him. No investigation explained how that footage was recorded. Iris reached Lantern Marsh after the final warning bell. Nobody on the pier wanted to meet her eyes. The night wind carried a smell nobody named. The last message mentioned only one blurred destination. Villagers said that place swallowed sound before dawn. Iris kept walking as the path narrowed steadily. Something small inside the bag trembled like warning. It was old crow charm once owned by Mother. Far away, the reed chapel rose like wet bones. At once, every nearby lantern went suddenly dark. Only moonlight moved across the black, shining water. Then a small voice called softly behind her. Nolan appeared carrying a lamp and several old keys. He told her to leave before the tide turned. Yet his eyes quietly begged her to remain. Nolan said each night another sound disappeared entirely. Some nights dogs vanished, other nights bells vanished. Last night someone lost the sound of speech. The last missing resident left behind pale marsh mud. That mud trail led directly toward the Reed Chapel. Iris asked the name everyone refused to speak. Nolan only whispered that the Raven Witch still waited. Old stories claimed it was neither dead nor alive. It only changed shape when someone remembered it. Together they crossed a wet walkway slick with mist. Old markers leaned sideways like rotting scattered teeth. Below them, deep water opened silver, unblinking eyes. Iris heard a third set of footsteps nearby. Whenever she turned around, the path grew longer. The door of the Reed Chapel glowed faintly blue. A single black hair had been caught there. Nolan said that was how the thing marked guests. Inside the nave, dust drifted upward instead of down. Every empty bench faced the wall instead of altar. At the center, a ring of symbols looked wet. Iris touched it and her palm turned freezing cold. Suddenly, the roof trembled as if huge wings landed. A flock of dark shapes crossed the light above. Nolan pulled her behind the old altar quickly. On the steps above, a human shape began forming. It looked female, but its neck seemed too long. An ancient hood concealed half the pale face. From its shoulders fell feathers, leaves, or ash. Iris recognized the missing crow charm within its grasp. The creature turned its head while body stayed still. Then it spoke her mother's name into darkness. That sound resembled memory more than ordinary speech. Nolan panicked and warned her not to answer. Yet that name unearthed a long-buried family secret. Her mother had fled Lantern Marsh on this night. She carried away a promise never properly fulfilled. That promise was tied to the distant tidal altar. Nolan admitted he had sent the final message. He needed one blood relative to return here. Every earlier ritual had failed before completion nearby, because the Raven Witch rejected anyone without lineage. Iris grew angry, yet still refused to leave. She needed to learn what her mother had traded. The creature retreated and pointed toward rear passage. Beyond a narrow door, tidewater was rising fast. The rear passage descended into flooded stone steps. Long claw marks remained etched across both walls. Each stair held one candle burned into blackness. At the bottom stood a door of roots. Nolan opened it using a bent stubborn key. Inside waited a cramped chamber with low ceiling. At the center sat a small altar draped wet. Beneath the cloth was an old portrait of Mother. In one corner, the painted eyes were scratched. Behind the frame, an unsent letter remained hidden. The letter described a bargain exchanged for peace. If broken, the whole region would begin losing sound. Iris understood her mother fled to break that bargain. Yet the remaining cost had fallen on locals. Nolan survived by guarding the Covenant through decades. He aged faster whenever the moon turned wrong. That was why tonight's message resembled a plea. Overhead, dripping water gathered into perfect circles nearby. Those circles merged slowly into one dark mirror. Inside it, the Raven Witch appeared clearer than ever. It had not come to kill but finish. What it wanted was the living voice of Iris. That voice would silence the land for 10 years. Iris refused, and the mirror cracked everywhere instantly. From every crack, dozens of whispers poured outward. They were the voices of earlier missing residents. Each voice repeated only one unfinished sentence softly. One sentence insisted the bargain was never fair. Another warned the keeper always became final offering. Nolan stared in shock as both hands turned gray. He had been the final link all along. The Raven Witch used him until blood returned here. Iris pulled him running from the flooding chamber. Behind them, Mother's portrait burned without any flame. Cold fire opened a route toward the tidal altar. Outside, all of Lantern Marsh glowed like a dream. Residents stood beside the road as though sleepwalking. Their mouths opened, but no sound emerged out. Every lantern tilted slowly toward the distant tidal altar. At the center, water coiled upward into stairs. The Raven Witch climbed each stair without touching water. It invited Iris onward with one patient bow. Nolan knelt down, knowing his remaining time faded. He gave her final key and begged no pity. To break the pact, she had to unlock ritual. If she failed, the region's voices vanished forever. Iris steadied herself and climbed the watery stairs. Behind her, the sky began shedding dark feathers. Atop tidal altar stood a slanted moon-carved stone. Raven Witch raised the crow charm like a key. Iris pretended agreement, then turned away suddenly nearby. The mark on her hand split the lock. Every thread snapped apart as the Raven Witch screamed. Sound rushed back while villagers collapsed altogether. Nolan smiled faintly, then faded back with tide. Before vanishing, he handed over Mother's final letter. The letter warned never watch when it unmasks. Dawn arrived, but many memories still remained missing. Her phone suddenly caught Mother counting backward nearby. Iris turned back and found the water watching. Lyra reached Amber Orchard after the final warning bell. Nobody on the pier wanted to meet her eyes. The night wind carried a smell nobody named. The last message mentioned only one blurred destination. Villagers said that place swallowed sound before dawn. Lyra kept walking as the path narrowed steadily. Something small inside the bag trembled like warning. It was old bone ladder once owned by Mother. Far away, the stone press rose like wet bone. At once, every nearby lantern went suddenly dark. Only moonlight moved across the black shining water. Then a small voice called softly behind her. Tomas appeared carrying a lamp and several old keys. He told her to leave before the tide turned. Yet his eyes quietly begged her to remain. Tomas said each night another sound disappeared entirely. Some nights dogs vanished, other nights bells vanished. Last night someone lost the sound of speech. The last missing resident left behind pale marsh mud. That mud trail led directly toward the stone press. Lyra asked the name everyone refused to speak. Tomas only whispered that the apple bride still waited. Old stories claimed it was neither dead nor alive. It only changed shape when someone remembered it. Together they crossed a wet walkway slick with mist. Old markers leaned sideways like rotting scattered teeth. Below them, deep water opened silver unblinking eyes. Lyra heard a third set of footsteps nearby. Whenever she turned around, the path grew longer. The door of the stone press glowed faintly blue. A single black hair had been caught there. Tomas said that was how the thing marked guests. Inside the nave, dust drifted upward instead of down. Every empty bench faced the wall instead of altar. At the center, a ring of symbols looked wet. Lyra touched it and her palm turned freezing cold. Suddenly the roof trembled as if huge wings landed. A flock of dark shapes crossed the light above. Tomas pulled her behind the old altar quickly. On the steps above, a human shape began forming. It looked female, but its neck seemed too long. An ancient hood concealed half the pale face. From its shoulders fell feathers, leaves, or ash. Lyra recognized the missing bone ladder within its grasp. The creature turned its head while body stayed still. Then it spoke her mother's name into darkness. That sound resembled memory more than ordinary speech. Tomas panicked and warned her not to answer. Yet that name unearthed a long-buried family secret. Her mother had fled Amber Orchard on this night. She carried away a promise never properly fulfilled. That promise was tied to the distant root cellar. Tomas admitted he had sent the final message. He needed one blood relative to return here. Every earlier ritual had failed before completion, nearby, because the apple bride rejected anyone without lineage. Lyra grew angry, yet still refused to leave. She needed to learn what her mother had traded. The creature retreated and pointed toward rear passage. Beyond a narrow door, tidewater was rising fast. The rear passage descended into flooded stone steps. Long claw marks remained etched across both walls. Each stair held one candle burned into blackness. At the bottom stood a door of roots. Tomas opened it using a bent stubborn key. Inside waited a cramped chamber with low ceiling. At the center sat a small altar draped wet. Beneath the cloth was an old portrait of Mother. In one corner, the painted eyes were scratched. Behind the frame, an unsent letter remained hidden. The letter described a bargain exchanged for peace. If broken, the whole region would begin losing sound. Lyra understood her mother fled to break that bargain. Yet the remaining cost had fallen on locals. Tomas survived by guarding the covenant through decades. He aged faster whenever the moon turned wrong. That was why tonight's message resembled a plea. Overhead, dripping water gathered into perfect circles nearby. Those circles merged slowly into one dark mirror. Inside it, the apple bride appeared clearer than ever. It had not come to kill, but finish. What it wanted was the living voice of Lyra. That voice would silence the land for 10 years. Lyra refused, and the mirror cracked everywhere instantly. From every crack, dozens of whispers poured outward. They were the voices of earlier missing residents. Each voice repeated only one unfinished sentence softly. One sentence insisted the bargain was never fair. Another warned the keeper always became final offering. Tomas stared in shock as both hands turned gray. He had been the final link all along. The apple bride used him until blood returned here. Lyra pulled him running from the flooding chamber. Behind them, Mother's portrait burned without any flame. Cold fire opened a route toward the root cellar. Outside, all of Amber Orchard glowed like a dream. Residents stood beside the road as though sleepwalking. Their mouths opened, but no sound emerged out. Every lantern tilted slowly toward the distant root cellar. At the center, water coiled upward into stairs. The apple bride climbed each stair without touching water. It invited Lyra onward with one patient Tomas knelt down, knowing his remaining time faded. He gave her final key and begged no pity. To break the pact, she had to unlock ritual. If she failed, the region's voices vanished forever. Lyra steadied herself and climbed the watery stairs. Behind her, the sky began shedding dark feathers. Atop root cellar stood a slanted moon-carved stone. Apple bride raised the bone ladder like a key. Lyra pretended agreement, then turned away suddenly. The mark on her hand split the lock. Every thread snapped apart as the apple bride screamed. Sound rushed back while villagers collapsed altogether. Tomas smiled faintly, then faded back with tide. Before vanishing, he handed over Mother's final letter. The letter warned never watch when it unmasks. Dawn arrived, but many memories still remained missing. Her phone suddenly caught Mother counting backward nearby. Lyra turned back and found the water watching. Drought exposed Blackwater Lake's drowned church steeple again. Hydrologist Iris arrived after hearing impossible underwater bells. The bells rang only during perfectly windless nights. Her mother vanished there 27 years earlier. Police found her shoes arranged beside dry reeds. No footprints ever entered or left the shoreline. Iris carried sonar records and her mother's compass. The compass pointed straight downward instead of north. Retired priest Rowan waited beside the cracked pier. He begged Iris to leave before sunset arrived. Rowan remembered villagers abandoning Blackwater during one storm. They claimed something tall walked across flooding water. Salvage diver Kellen dismissed every supernatural rumor immediately. He wanted the church bell's antique silver clapper. Old photographs showed no bell inside that tower. Yet tonight, bronze echoes rolled beneath their boat. Sonar revealed streets beneath 40 meters of water. Every street curved toward the submerged church square. One moving shape followed directly beneath their hull. Its antlered outline resembled dead reeds walking upright. Kellen descended first, wearing a weighted diving suit. Iris followed with cameras sealed inside paper housings. Their lights found houses preserved beneath Blackwater. Curtains still moved behind windows without any current. Dinner plates waited beneath layers of pale silt. A child's wooden boat floated inside a bedroom. Rowan's frightened voice crackled through their damaged radio. He warned them never to answer familiar voices. Iris heard her mother calling from the church. Kellen heard coins spilling somewhere below the tower. They entered the church through shattered paper doors. Pews faced backward toward a wall of reeds. Hundreds of names covered stones beneath transparent tape. Iris found her mother's name still dripping fresh. Kellen discovered the silver clapper beneath the altar. The moment he touched it, every bell rang. A towering creature unfolded from the reed wall. Its translucent skin held trapped lights like fireflies. Amber eyes opened above a mouth without teeth. The creature offered Iris her mother's drowned compass. Kellen raised the clapper and currents twisted violently. The creature struck no one, only blocked escape. Iris noticed chains wrapped around its reed antlers. Each chain connected toward homes across the village. The creature guarded something beneath the church floor. Iris signaled Kellen to return the silver clapper. He refused, claiming it financed his family's debts. The church floor opened beneath his heavy boots. Blackwater dragged Kellen into a hidden crypt. Iris followed downward while the creature watched silently. The crypt contained jars filled with glowing memories. Inside one jar, Iris saw her mother laughing. Another jar held Rowan preaching before terrified villagers. A third showed Kellen stealing from flooded graves. The village had traded memories against rising waters. Each surrendered memory became another protective lake barrier. Rowan's congregation selected victims unable to refuse anything. Iris's mother discovered the arrangement and strongly resisted. She tried releasing every stolen memory simultaneously that night. The resulting flood swallowed Blackwater in one night. Rowan confessed through radio static above the lake. He had sealed Iris's mother beneath the tower. The reed creature was once the village bellkeeper. Villagers transformed him through desperate forbidden water magic. He guarded memories so the dam remained strong. Kellen broke another jar while searching for treasure. Forgotten voices suddenly burst throughout the submerged streets. Houses trembled violently as their missing histories returned. The lake surface began rising despite continuing drought. Iris found her mother's jar beneath the bell. Its glass was cracked but still tightly sealed. The creature placed one claw against Iris's chest. She suddenly remembered a childhood night near Blackwater. Her mother had carried Iris toward the church. Rowan took Iris while bells drowned her screams. Her mother surrendered herself to save her daughter. Iris had buried that memory through childhood trauma. The creature offered Iris two choices without speaking. Break the jar and release every barrier forever. Or leave her mother trapped forever beneath Blackwater. Kellen demanded Iris choose treasure over one ghost. He swung the clapper against the creature's chains. Several heavy chains snapped, releasing roaring currents outside. The creature collapsed as reeds scattered through darkness. Iris grabbed her mother's jar and fled upward. Kellen followed closely, still holding the silver clapper. The church tower emerged above the churning lake. Rowan rang a handbell beside the broken pier. Each ring tightened remaining chains around the creature. Iris realized Rowan still controlled the old ritual. She opened her mother's jar before everyone watching. Golden memories poured across water like burning film. Rowan dropped the handbell and desperately begged forgiveness. Iris's mother's glowing shape appeared beside the creature. She touched its antlers, breaking the final chains. Water rushed toward town through ancient drainage tunnels. Kellen suddenly blocked Iris's only path toward safety. He wanted the released memories sold as evidence. The creature seized Kellen's clapper, not his body. Kellen vanished when his reflection entered the lake. No splash or bubbles marked where he disappeared. The creature carried Iris toward the exposed shore. Her mother's shape faded with the retreating water. Before vanishing, she pointed beneath Rowan's heavy coat. There Iris found 27 stolen memory labels. Rowan admitted yearly sacrifices continued after Blackwater drowned. He claimed they protected downstream towns from flooding. Authorities finally arrested Rowan after Iris released recordings. Engineers drained Blackwater and found no drowned village. The sonar streets had vanished beneath ordinary mud. Kellen's suit surfaced empty beside bundled silver reeds. Iris kept her mother's compass, now pointing north. For 1 year, the bells remained completely silent. Then drought returned again during another moonless summer. A tall reed figure appeared outside Iris's window. It carried Kellen's frightened face beneath translucent skin. The compass needle slowly turned downward once more. Blackwater's church bell rang deeply beneath dry earth. Experts found no source beneath the drained basin. That final recording remains unexplained to this day.